Thank you for joining us for this demonstration of OneSite Patch for CrowdStrike, Adaptiva's autonomous patch management solution that integrates with CrowdStrike's Falcon exposure management. OneSite Patch for CrowdStrike helps you reduce risk by prioritizing critical vulnerabilities and fixing them fast with automated patching. With the option to accelerate deployments based on CrowdStrike's rich vulnerability insights, OneSite Patch rapidly remediates vulnerabilities for Windows and third-party applications as soon as a patch is available. In this demo, we are using an Express version of OneSite Patch, and it is integrated with CrowdStrike Falcon Spotlight. We will cover the Falcon Spotlight integration and auto-remediation settings, including risk-based prioritization, business units, maintenance windows, approvals, and more. So let's get started. Thank you for joining us today for our demonstration on OneSite Patch Express with the CrowdStrike add-on for OneSite Patch. You can see here I've added the 2 licenses to my environment, and so now I have access to my full OneSite Patch Express environment. Here's the main screen where we're going to see information about our general environment. We'll be able to see information about our overall compliance and our risk score. We'll see the top 5 non-compliant products and top 5 missing patches. Now, currently I'm dealing with a brand new lab, so I haven't scanned clients yet, so all of this is still empty. But this will get populated as clients get scanned and report in appropriately. Now, the first thing I'm going to do when I want to integrate with Falcon Spotlight is I'm going to come here to the Falcon Access settings on the left, and I need to enter in my client ID, my secret, and my base URL that I get from the Falcon Spotlight environment. So I'll go into Falcon Spotlight console. I will go ahead and create an API secret. I'll get this information from there and enter it in appropriately. That's going to link us up for our API to the Falcon Spotlight environment. Now we'll be pulling over information from the Falcon Spotlight environment, and we can take action on that information here within the Adaptiva environment. One of the first things we're going to do is we're going to set up auto remediation settings. And this is going to tell the environment what do we want to do for the different criticality ratings for the expert ratings coming from Falcon Spotlight. So we're using the expert ratings from Falcon Spotlight, managing each criticality level, critical, high, medium, and low, and setting a separate set of settings for each one of these. So the first one here is critical. I'm going to go ahead and turn on automatic remediation. I want to go ahead and fix those vulnerabilities. I can choose to also remediate Adaptiva patches. So we may have products within the Adaptiva environment that are not associated with the vulnerability in Falcon Spotlight. Do we want to go ahead and remediate those vulnerabilities as well? So I can go ahead and turn that on. Do I want to pre-stage my patches? This allows me to push those patches out to the devices that are going to need it before the deployment actually takes place, so that they've got a local copy of that when it's time to install that patch. Next up, I'm going to choose my schedule. Now, since this is my critical patches, I'm probably going to do this on a daily basis. I want to get my critical patches installed as soon as possible. So I might choose 7 p.m. every night to get those installed. I can choose a role for patch deployment notification. So this is going to notify an administrator that patches have been released and that they're going to be pushed out throughout the environment. Alternatively, I can also have an approval. So before those patches actually get pushed, I can have an approver go in, review the patches that are going to be pushed out there, and approve those patches appropriately. So I can go ahead and choose a role here. And I've got my different roles. Notice that my CrowdStrike roles get pulled over. It's one of the pieces of information that gets pulled over. And so I can expand this out and see all of the roles that came over from CrowdStrike. So I can choose my Falcon administrator to be my approver. And now he will be asked to approve these patches before we can move on. Now, what if we want to give him a certain amount of time to approve or deny those patches, but if he doesn't do it in a certain amount of time, we want to go ahead and approve them anyway? That's what this next setting allows us to do. Time until automatic production deployment approval. So I might say, if he doesn't approve that within 2 days, then I'm going to go ahead and automatically approve those patches and get them pushed out there. Now, the next thing I can set up is a load leveling window. If I'm going to be pushing this out to hundreds of thousands of machines, I don't want them to go all at once. I want to load level that out so that I'm not saturating my network. So I might say, push it out over 6 hours. Spread it all out amongst all my machines over a 6-hour period of time. The next thing I can do is I can set up a test deployment settings. So do I want to deploy to a test group first? You say, yes, I do. And then I can choose my business unit that I'm going to use for that deployment. Again, notice here's all my Falcon host group business units. All of the Falcon host groups that are built in Falcon get pulled over, and I can use those for targeting here in Adaptiva. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my testing machines. And so now I'm first going to deploy to my testing machines. How long am I going to watch that deployment? Well, let's say I'm going to do that for 5 days. So we'll deploy to this first set of machines. We'll wait for 5 days. We'll see if there are any issues with any of the patches that got deployed to those machines. Make sure we're not having any issues exposed, and move on with the production environment to all the rest of my devices. Now, just like we had up above, I can have a test deployment approval as well. So I could go choose another role and have an approver for the test deployment. And again, just like above, I can have an automatic approval should that approver not do it in an appropriate amount of time. So I can set all that up, save that, and then move on to the next high, medium, and low. Perhaps I want to do my criticals every day on a daily basis. My highs, maybe I want to do those every 3 days or maybe once a week. My mediums, maybe that's once a month. And my lows, maybe I do that once a quarter. However conservative or aggressive you want to get on your patching, you can set that up appropriately. So once I've got all that set up, I've got my auto remediation set up. The next thing I want to set up is my patching preferences. Now, patching preferences are going to allow me to set up for each business unit a server maintenance window and a server user interaction settings. So I can go and choose one of my business units, and I can do all Windows clients. And I can say, I'm going to have a maintenance window for that. And I look at all urgencies. And again, I can expand this out to show all of them. And I might say for all Windows clients, that can go anytime from 5 o'clock till 9 a.m. I'll check that box, add that maintenance window in there, and now I can only deploy from 5 p.m. until 9 a.m. My server interaction settings, user interaction settings, allows me to go and decide what user interaction settings I want for my users. So deployment and reboot notifications, deployment notifications only, or reboot notifications only. I'm going to choose a deployment and reboot, and I'll choose a 15-minute warning. So 15 minutes before I'm going to deploy those patches, I'll do a notification to those end users. And 15 minutes prior to a reboot, I'll also notify them that a reboot is going to occur. Add those settings, and I can save that, and I'll have that associated with the business unit. And then I can go and do this again for other business units and have different maintenance windows, different user interaction settings for each set of users. Now, once I've done that, I'm really ready to go. The patching environment is ready to start deploying patches out to my environment using the information settings that we set. I do have some further customization that I can do. I can create custom business units. So if I don't have all of the Falcon host groups that got pulled over for me, and I want to create some more custom business units to break down my units further, by default, I've got system type, I've got operating systems, I've got my architecture, but maybe I wanted to do it based off of regions or based off of departments. I can go ahead and create my own business units, and then I'll be able to use those for targeting and set up my patching preferences appropriately. Another thing that I can set up is patching exceptions. Patching exceptions allow me to go through and specify override desired states. So for this business unit, do not install or roll back or uninstall. And I get to choose the software that goes with each one of those and add my business units appropriately. The other thing that I can do is I can say select last allowed version. This is very useful because, for example, I might have a business unit like my development environment, and I'm using Java runtime, and I know that I have to use an older version, even though there are vulnerabilities in there. It's something that I've accepted. I've done some mitigation steps to help manage that risk and that threat, but I need to make sure that for that business unit, I do not ever go above a certain version. So I can go in there and find a certain version, mark that as my last allowed version, and anytime new patches come out for that product, they will not get installed for that business unit. Very finite control to make sure that I'm getting exactly the versions that I need inside of my environment. I can also go and create custom maintenance windows. So if the built-in ones don't work for me, I can create my own. I can also create my own user interaction settings. So again, if one of these doesn't work for me, I can create my own and add additional ones to this. And the last thing that I've got is customized products. So this allows me to go in, and for each product in my environment, I can go through and specify customized settings for that deployment. So I'll choose my deployment wave. With Patch Express, I've only got a single deployment wave, single wave all clients. So I'll choose that. And then I'll choose my target product. For this example, I'll choose ABBA client here. And when I do that, you can see these extra settings that I've got related specifically to that ABBA client. And now I can customize the way that this gets installed in my environment. So perhaps I want to install the ABBA Client Manager feature. I can turn that on. But I do want a desktop shortcut for that ABBA Client Manager, so I'm going to uncheck the delete to make sure that that gets applied to my desktop. So I can do this for each of my applications and customize those installations exactly to the way that I want those to go. Now, once I've set all that up, I'm now patching my environment. I can go see what's going on in my environment by looking at my patching state. I can go to products. I can see information about the products in my environment. I can see right now I've got all 1,310 that have supported products in this environment. So I can see information about that and how those are relating to my environment. I can go look at the patches in my environment. I can look at the devices. I can also go look at the deployments that are going on. And I can look at my patching cycles and my rollout cycles. Now, deployment cycles only applies to the enterprise product, but I can look at my patching cycles and my rollout cycles, look at what's currently running, and look at the history, what has been run inside my environment, and go back and look at information about that. So I've got all this to go through and see what's going on. Approval requests, I can come in here, and if I've got approvals that are pending for one of my rollouts, I can come in here and see that, open it up, see what's going on, which patches are included in that, and approve that package request, and those deployments will then take place. So that is Patch Express with CrowdStrike integration. And to get a further demo, a one-on-one demo, you can go to adaptiva.com/demo. Thanks for joining us today.